podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
Hey. Thanks for pressing play, Phoenix Suns fans, and welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. We hope that you're having a spectacular offseason. Matthew, are you having a good offseason?
I am, yeah. I'm enjoying some really great basketball out there.
I know, right?
It's nice to do these pods once in a while, but also just sit back and watch some competitive basketball, some bruising basketball. It's nice, man, to not really worry about it too much.
Yeah, it's fun to watch basketball and not have the emotional investment. And it's also simultaneously, it reminds you how far the Suns were from being any semblance of competitive. And so as you watch these games, there's not that, you know, like when the Suns lost in Game 7 to the Dallas Mavericks in 2022, and then you see the next series and you see Dallas playing the Warriors, and you're like, fuck, man, I wish we would have had a chance at them. I think we could have beat that team.
Yeah.
There's no team like we would have been the Memphis Grizzlies getting boned by the Thunder, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they would have they made it a little bit more competitive than the Suns would have, I feel like, in the first round.
Yeah, seriously. They're blown out by 60 points, right? Yeah, Suns would have done 70. So
exactly.
But it's fun to get back together to talk about the Phoenix Suns, what's going on. And it's going to be a little bit weird. You know, like I don't have the reps anymore. We come on once a week. We talk about the Suns. I'm used to using this podcast as an outlet to vocalize my thoughts on the Suns. And I've been doing a lot more writing than I have been speaking. So it's going to be kind of an interesting podcast as we navigate articulating our thoughts on what's going on with the Suns relative to news. And then ultimately the meat of the podcast when we talk about whether or not to trade Devin Booker, right?
Yeah. And if you don't use it, do you lose it? We'll find out tonight.
We're going to find out tonight. So before we get into it, a reminder, subscribe, rate, review. If you're listening to this podcast, go ahead on Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars, write a review. We'll read it right here on the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button. Help us out or don't. I don't care. I do care. I love you guys. I love that people watch us even during the off season. Wow, man. Matthew's gone full.
Yeah. All black.
Full.
I'm emo Spider-Man tonight.
You're Stone Cold Steve Austin tonight, man. You've gone full heel. Well, let's start off by talking about things going on in the Phoenix Suns news.
And now, ladies and Jamsters, news about the Phoenix Suns.
All right, so the Phoenix Suns are still without a head coach, Matthew, and it sounds like, based on reporting coming out of the Phoenix camp, that it's going to be a reshuffle in the front office, not a revisioning. So James Jones, he's currently a part of the head coach search, which means he's most likely not going anywhere. Is that a good or a bad thing that he's not going anywhere?
I think it's fine. It's what I expected, only because I didn't think he was the one pulling the trigger on stuff. So I feel like you have to reshuffle. Not get rid of the guy that didn't really make any choices. You gotta kind of be like, you know what, we're gonna reshuffle a few guys below him to help out to find a new coach, and maybe we'll get it right this time. So I don't think he was ever gonna be let go, and I think he's a guy that you can trust moving forward, maybe to make the decisions. We'll see as it pans out, and it's gonna be funny because like if something does happen where it's like, hey, we didn't actually ask for this guy on Twitter. Then I'm like, maybe James Jones did do that, because every time we wanted anything on Twitter, right?
It happens.
It was Matt Ishbia, anything. And then now it's like, if this some guy we sign, we're like, well, I didn't see that coming. Then James Jones is making the decisions.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of people feel that there's a lot of blood on the hands of the front office, and therefore they should be tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. And death is a one-way flight out of Phoenix, Arizona, never to land here again. And I'm kind of with you. And I know that I've stated this before, that I don't think that James Jones truly had enough pull in those conversations when it was Ishbia and Bartlestein coming in to really make a decision. I think that he had the contacts. He's the guy who had the contacts and the phone, and he's the guy who had started conversations about acquiring Kevin Durant. And when Ishbia got there, he's the one who's like, dude, press send on that text. I see that you've typed it out. You've got it sitting in your drafts. Just send that fucker through. Let's get Kevin Durant here. And whether there's validity to that or not, obviously, you know, there was the press conference in which Josh Bartlestein and James Jones said that Matt Ishbia had nothing to do with player personnel decisions. My response to that is, if that is truly the case, then both should go. But we both know, at least from my perception, is that's not true. What they're doing is they're trying to cover for their boss because their boss is in the middle of trying to reshuffle the vision of this front office, and they need to do what they can to survive. Ultimately, I don't know if that's the right way to approach things, but it's a way, right?
Yeah, you have to make something happen. Unless you're the Dallas Cowboys, you just never change anything and you continue to lose in the playoffs or not even make the playoffs. That's the only team I feel like in franchise mode throughout all the the three big sports that they don't make any changes, whether they're winning or losing. Well, when they're losing all the time, they just don't make any changes. But the Suns know, we're out to get them, right? They have to do something. So if they do this, then it's like, okay, maybe this new guy that is promoted can help us get a new coach, because obviously James Jones would have been gone by now if he was the one getting these coaches.
Yeah,
and they're just fired one after the other,
and not even making the transactions.
He would be gone. He would have been gone mid-season or just right after the season. He would have been let go. He absolutely would. There's plenty of guys out there, I'm sure, that would be chomping at the bit to be the GM for the Suns, and he's just still it because he wasn't making the decisions.
Well, I don't know about all that. I think that this is a tough job, Oh God, yeah. It's like, oh man, they fucked this. But I think to your point, yeah, absolutely. If Matt Ishbia hadn't been the driving force behind transactions, then yeah, James Jones would have been the guy to take the fall. But ultimately, we know that Matt Ishbia is highly involved, and as much as he tries to make it seem like he's like, I'm busy, I'm a busy guy. Yeah, it's like, no, dude. No, dude. You take constantly. A lot of Excedrin, dude. You have a lot of energy in you.
Yeah.
And no pain. That's the beautiful part about Excedrin, And, real quick on the Dallas Cowboys draft. I do love that your first overall draft pick, his last name was Booker.
Yeah, it's perfect. Now I can get a Booker
Tyler
jersey
Booker.
And a Booker Cowboys jersey.
You get a Booker Cowboys
Devin
jersey.
Booker,
Tyler Booker, guard, Alabama, with a 12th overall pick.
Both number one.
Well, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Crazy.
That'd be interesting on a guard.
Yeah,
your offensive lineman.
Out. That's just a little tiny one.
Well, there's reports were coming out today. John Gambadoro, Arizona Sports, was reporting that we should know something relative to what's going to occur in the Suns front office within the next 48 hours. Obviously, this is paramount because there still needs to be a head coach hired. Now, granted, reports coming from Mark Stein from the Stein line were saying that James Jones is the driving force currently behind hiring a head coach, but they are going to bring somebody potentially in or internally promote somebody to assist with general manager duties. Mark Stein, again, from the Stein line, had this to report today. He said, I'm told an emerging option in Phoenix, rather than a splashy hire outside the organization, is promoting Vice President of Player Programming Brian Gregory to a more prominent front office role. Gregory already has a significant voice in Suns draft strategy and is highly regarded by owner Matt Ishbia. He added, revamping his front office from within rather than dragging out a Bob Myers pursuit accelerates Ishbia's stated first step. Then Phoenix can ramp up its coach search. So thoughts on that? Now, I'm sure that you don't have a ton of information on Brian Gregory, other than the fact that he has two first names like Brian Grant and Chris Paul. Let's see, who else had two first names as a member of the Phoenix Suns? It'll come to us. But what do you think of the Suns' strategy in hiring from within rather than going out and trying to hire from the outside?
Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, is this more of like a Jerry Jones type owner where he kind of wants his hands on things? You get a GM in here that, what was the guy from Golden State? Can't think of his name right now.
Bob Myers.
Bob Myers, yeah. Bob Myers was obviously the name because he said something about Kevin Durant during a halftime show about disrespecting him with the trade offer and all that stuff. So everyone wants him here. I just think, if you're going to do internal and you're not going to bring in someone like that who's known to win championships, sign guys, obviously through the draft, they built that team in Golden State. I just think that maybe he's like, I do have my hands on things. I don't want some other guy in here messing things up. Like, I have James Jones under control. I'm paying him good money and he won't have to take the blame. Oh, he has to take the blame from stuff, but also he has to know like, hey, I'm going to be making the decisions. So I'm kind of scared a little bit because, stories will happen in the future where we'll know who real Matt Ishbia is. Right now, we don't. He came in here and just like that turned the whole franchise around, the arena, the banners, all the stuff, all the good stuff, the UPN 45 music,
the fucking hot dogs.
It's been the hot dogs, all the good stuff. But he's coming here and he's like, no, I don't have time for things. It's like, dude, you changed a lot that quickly. You built a whole new media center for the Suns media, like right outside the arena, and the Phoenix Mercury Center and all that stuff. So he's doing a lot, but I just think that he wants to do everything. And that includes signing players. If you want some guy to actually scout, that makes sense. He said in his post press conference that he doesn't do the scouting, obviously. We understand that. He's not going to drive out there or fly out there to watch these guys and look at some prospects. Like, we all know that. So everything else, though, signing guys, getting the stars in here, I feel like he does have his hands on that. Doing internally, I feel like this kind of scares me a little bit more.
It does. And again, it goes back to the statement I stated earlier, where if you believe that everybody in the front office has blood on their hands, then why would you promote somebody internally who has blood on their hands? Now, obviously, when you look at Brian Gregory, he's somebody who was an assistant coach from 1990 to 1996, and then coming back 1999 to 03. If you were to guess what college he was an assistant coach at, what would you guess?
Michigan State.
That's correct. He's a Michigan State guy, right? He's part of those hires that came in last year when Matt Ishbia kind of re-envisioned aspects of the front office. Now, somebody who definitely has draft understanding and was relied on in that capacity. Last year's draft was a good one. I'm not going to go as far to say a great one, but it was definitely a good one, especially considering where the Suns picked. So if they do choose to change it up to where they go, you know what? James Jones, you're the president of basketball operations. In the past, you're the president of basketball operations and the general manager. Now we're giving the general manager to Brian Gregory. I can see it. I can understand it. It's nothing splashy, as Mark Stein said. I think one of the challenges I have with it is, rather than getting the splashy hire outside, because he wants to hire somebody from within because he doesn't want to drag out a pursuit of Bob Myers. But isn't that the lazy approach? Shouldn't you be finding the best candidate like a Bob Myers? And that should be the priority rather than worrying about dragging out the pursuit. This long press conference that Matt Ishbia gave us, stating all these reasons as to why this team is going to change identity. You're just promoting a guy within who shares the same identity as what we had before. Now, Bob Myers is its own beast unto itself. Why in the fucking world would he ever want to come here? The guy loves Jokic, and they have a general manager opening there. If he was to take one, Phoenix would not be on the top of the list. But still, if you're trying to change the identity and the direction of this team from a front office standpoint, going with much of the same is a lazy approach, and one that I don't have a ton of confidence in as at this point in time.
Exactly. And I do agree too with 8.0, who says in the chat, but Bob Myers might not have been interested too.
Why would you want to come here?
Exactly. And I got to hit on this. Creepy Crawly really quick. First compliment ever on the pod. A great angle, Lissy. Thank you so much. It's the first time he's complimented me. I can imagine Matt Ishbia showing up at James Jones's mansion in the middle of the night when it's raining, just standing outside while James Jones is inside with a bowl of ice cream with his hot chick, whoever he has for a girlfriend. And
rain
he's
and ice cream, good combo.
Yeah, and he opens the door, and Matt Ishbia is just standing there in the rain like, I'm sorry, I fucked up. He's like, I told you, just he had to trust me. He's like, I know, I'm so sorry. He admitted it, and that's why he keeps his job. But who knows, man? I think
Matt Ishbia is Robin Williams, and James Jones is Matt Damon. He's just hugging him, saying, "It's not your fault."
I
know. It's not your fault. I know. It's not your fault. I know. It's not you too.
I hope that's Good Will Hunting. Is that Good Will Hunting?
That is 100%. Well done.
I was like, there might have been another movie.
He's going to go see about a girl.
Serious roles. He was really good at that. And
he was amazing in that fucking movie.
If this is really what's going on, though, it kind of makes me a little excited where James Jones is taking control again. You know what I mean? If we're not making the moves, but we're just kind of behind the scenes, you can take control. I'm a little bit more excited if that is the case.
That's a good piece for Brightside right there. Because if people on Brightside of the Sun, man, they can't stand fucking James Jones. They're like, he needs to go to hell.
That is crazy.
So we'll see what happens with this Brian Gregory situation. My guess is that's what's going to happen. And you can have that debate. Should they hire someone externally? Should they go with their internal guy? Part of me wants to say go externally, but I also understand this team's on a clock right now, that you have numerous organizations that have quality people who are a part of them who are currently trying to execute the postseason. And you're not going to have an opportunity to interview them. And let's say you've eyed somebody. You're like, I think there's somebody, there's an advanced scout over with Cleveland, and Cleveland goes to the Eastern Conference Finals. if you can interview and hire the guy, you've got 3 weeks to prep for the draft and
Yeah.
4 weeks to prep for free agency. You're kind of in this time crunch, unfortunately, that's going to cause the Suns probably to go internal. Now, obviously, part of this is looking for a new head coach. The Suns have yet to hire one. We'll probably start to get more news relative to who they're actually going to hire once we get the news on what they're going to do with their front office. But one thing is clear, no Steve Nash. Steve Nash is going to be joining Amazon's coverage next season. Does this upset you, Matthew? Because I know Nashty is like your favorite Sun of all time.
Yeah, I wasn't too excited. Even when he was on the top of the odds makers to really come here to Phoenix and change things around, I didn't really believe in it. So I never really thought I had any kind of leverage at all. Even though it was top, like when I saw that he was number 1 in Vegas odds, I was really surprised to even see that. I really just thought that maybe they're just throwing out there because of his ties to Phoenix. But I don't really think he'll be a head coach again. Nash. I think he tried.
I don't think so either.
He's like, no, that was not worth it. Maybe an assistant, maybe behind the scenes, like what he was with Golden State, but he's not. I think a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on the podcast Mind the Game with LeBron James. He's been delving into the media side of it, and I think that he feels more comfortable doing that. I remember when he was on Bill Simmons' podcast years ago, probably during like the 2021 Olympics. It was a really good interview. And I was like, you know what? He probably could be like low, because he does a lot of stuff with soccer. But I'm like, he could low key probably be pretty good at that. Now, I don't know how much confidence I have in the Amazon crew next year. It's like him and I think Matt Barnes, maybe not. But Blake Griffin's a part of it, so maybe it'll be a hit. But we'll see.
Why is he a part of it?
Because Blake Griffin's funny and has a
though?
personality.
I don't think he is though.
He's
I think
corny.
he's terrible on commercials.
Well, I was watching the Red Lobster commercial. I'm like, that acting, dude. Look at the fucking camera. Like, just look at the camera.
Yeah, I feel like they CGI'd that. I don't even think that was him.
He has a very CGI-able face.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. I don't like him. He rubs me the wrong way. I think he's a creep. I don't trust him around anybody.
I think he's a creep because he creeped on the Phoenix Suns organization. They got a bigger contract out of it, went back to Los Angeles, got injured, and they traded his ass to fucking Detroit. But that being said, I was not really big on the Steve Nash hype. I'm not big on the hype around any former Phoenix Suns player as a head coach. They're like, no.
Over that
Dan Marley, Jared Dudley, CP3. I'm like, no.
Jared Dudley one. I'm like, no.
No way. I just don't have a desire for that. Mm-hmm. I'd rather, again, Chris Quinn, the Heat have just lost. They're out of that's who I want. I want Chris Quinn, assistant from Miami, former Notre Dame player. So I think that I think that might be one of the reasons why they're going to make that decision here really quick with the front office. They're going to, hey, Brian Gregory's our guy. And then like 3 days later, it's like, hey, Chris Quinn from Miami, that's your new head coach. Boom. Eddie Yee. How about Jason Kidd? Fuck no on Jason Kidd. I can't stand Jason Kidd, man. For those of you who are around in like 2000, Jason Kidd's kind of a piece of shit. I don't want him anywhere near my organization.
Yeah, he would never come back to Phoenix.
There's
no way. It'd be like, well, it wouldn't be as bad, but like when Karl Malone came back for the All-Star game, like the most awkward thing last year. We had to talk about how
everyone's like,
he's a pedophile. Like, it's not as bad, but it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But again, it sounds like neither of us are upset about Steve Nash. Obviously, the other big news, I mentioned that teams are starting to fall out of the playoffs. And when that happens, you start to look at those individual teams and say, hey, is there any transaction here that can be mutually beneficial? Maybe that's somebody who could help us and vice versa. Like I have a piece coming out on Bright Side of the Sun tomorrow morning about potentially trading either Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal to the Orlando Magic because they shot 26% from beyond the arc in the playoffs. They need 3-point shooting. What could we get from them? Is there anything desirable from them? But obviously the name that everybody's talking around about in the league right now is Giannis Antetokounmpo, man. Losing 4-1 to the Indiana Pacers. I think we both had Indiana winning in 7, and we were both wrong, but at least we had Indiana winning. But, I mean, everyone's hitting that trade machine for Giannis at this point. My question for you, Matthew, for the Suns, is that an exercise in futility?
No, I think that there's a process to where he comes here and he can be right up there with Devin Booker as obviously our two best players, but also another guy that wants to come here because of Devin Booker and wants to play because we have an owner that will spend money. I think those are the two biggest factors for him to come here, but also it's winning. And I think he knows how much Devin Booker wants to win here in Phoenix. And I think Giannis is as competitive as Devin Booker. It just depends what they can surround him with here. And it depends how it works out with Bradley Beal, obviously being gone, if Kevin Durant's traded too. So Giannis is a guy I think the Suns should go after. I don't think it's something that they should just go like, yeah, there's no chance. Obviously, I think the Phoenix Suns are still a destination, but also Giannis, there's a lot of better places for him to go right now to win instantly. So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't feel like Phoenix is a top 10 team that he can actually land on, because there are 10 teams, I feel like, in probably not 10, maybe 8 teams right now that are actually currently ready to win a championship, where you plug them in and they're automatically a contender. Here in Phoenix, I don't see it yet. So we'll see how the offseason goes, though.
It's not happening, in my opinion, for a couple different reasons. One, Milwaukee is just like the Suns, and they don't own the rights to their draft picks until the 2030s. So they need, if you're giving up Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're getting back draft capital. You are getting back a haul. And the Suns don't have a haul to give up. You're not trading Kevin Durant for him one-on-one and we add a couple picks. That's not going to happen. You're not even trading, like, even if you wanted to trade Devin Booker for Giannis Antetokounmpo straight up, you couldn't do it because we don't have the salt and the seasoning that is the stake of the trade, and those things are draft picks. We just don't have it. And I think that that's the biggest challenge. And once I start to see people doing the Photoshop jersey swaps of Giannis wearing a Valley 34, which one is not possible because Charles Barkley's number is retired. And two, like you said, there's so many different destinations that Giannis would most likely want to go to, but also would be mutually beneficial in some capacity for the Milwaukee Bucks if they're like, fuck, because they're in a tight, shitty spot. Dame Lillard just injured his Achilles. He's not back. It might be a 2-year injury. It might be a career ender.
Might be done.
Yeah.
Might be done. Yeah.
Could be it, And with that, you're not going to have that next to Giannis next year. So they're not going to be as competitive. He went for 30 points and 20 rebounds and 13 assists last night, and they lost. I mean, the team around him, there's not much wiggle room. They're also a team that's $2 million shy of the second apron as well. So they're a team that has restrictions around them as well. So they have to be very delicate how they move forward. And I think that when you start to look at like Brooklyn and the Knicks and the Heat and all these other teams that have things to actually offer up, that's Phoenix isn't even in the conversation. So it's just my message to Suns fans is dream on, but don't dream that one because it's not going to fucking happen.
It's not going to happen. Well, what about for Booker?
It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. We don't have enough to give them. We can't aggregate players.
You give them a guy that's because they made like the Kyle Kuzma trade. I'm just saying, whoever's running the front office.
Yeah, that was a horrible fucking trade. They just gave an extension to their general manager yesterday too.
I mean, if they want picks, that's fine. But if they want, hey, we want to start back. Obviously, he's not top tier like Giannis, but he's a guy that would kind of bring people to the seat still and keep them a little bit competitive. So that would be great. But also, man, the way that Giannis wants to win and stuff, and you can plug him in somewhere. I really think in getting all the draft picks back, a perfect place would be the Thunder. And I just like I predicted last pod. I'm like, I feel like the Thunder will fall short of the championship. They have everything. If they can just get Giannis and get those two centers out of there and Hartenstein and what's his nuts, the fucking
Chet Holmgren.
If they can trade him and Hartenstein and a bunch of picks, you bring in Giannis, like that's a perfect guy where, all right, they're automatic contenders. They're going to win every year for the next 3 years. So,
yeah, this is true.
Unless he wants to go to LA. Somehow that will happen with next to Luka.
It ain't Phoenix. That's for damn sure.
I don't think so either.
All right. I want to ask you about the playoffs thus far, but we'll save that for the back end of the podcast because it's time to talk about whether or not we should close the book or double down on Devin Booker. That's right. It's point counterpoint time.
Yes.
Devin Armani Booker.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Big Dick Booker.
All right. To trade or not to trade, Devin Armani Booker. So here's what we'll do, Matthew. Is we will start off by just coming up with talking points as to reasons why you do not trade Devin Booker. We lay out the case. Here's why you don't trade him. And then we'll do the same. Here's the case as to why you do trade him. And then once we're done laying out both cases, then you and I can talk about whether or not we think we should trade him or we shouldn't trade him. Sound good?
I like that idea, John.
Okay. Well, let's start off with reasons why you do not trade Devin Booker. So I'll just start and I'll say,
You start first.
yeah, trading Devin Booker for picks, because that's what everyone's talking about, right? Like you trade Devin Booker because you want draft capital. And the way that I look at it is if you're trading Devin Booker for draft capital, the draft capital you're getting back, it's the same philosophy the Suns had, right? The Suns traded all their picks because they're like, dude, we don't need fucking picks. We're going to be picking outside of the lottery for the next 10 years. Now it backfired on Phoenix because of multiple decisions that poor decision making. Let's promote somebody in the front office. They made a great decision. But if you're trading, let's say you trade Devin Booker to Miami, right? And Miami gives you back 4 first-round picks. Guess what? In the next 5 years, Devin Booker is going to help that team not be in the lottery. And those picks they're not going to be great picks, right? So it's like you're trading picks. It's like selling your house for monopoly money. It looks good because you're getting something back, but try building a real future with Boardwalk and a dream. Most of those first round picks will be low value scratchers, not golden tickets. That's why you don't trade them.
That's a good reason. And also because he's a good fit somewhere else, like Houston, the Thunder, other teams that are competitive. Why can't the Suns just surround him with the same kind of talent, right? Obviously, we talk about the cohesiveness of this team. It wasn't there the last 2 seasons. So you do need that year after year to build something with the players they have on the roster. Right now, I mean, when I look at like if he were to go to Houston or a team that is competitive, even like Memphis, who knows if they keep Ja, I would look back and be like, how come the Suns just couldn't pull that off? So don't trade him because you can make it happen if you trade Kevin Durant and get rid of Beal to surround him with a team just as good as those other competitive teams.
No, I agree. Part of the reason why you don't trade Devin Booker is you're doing a retool, not a rebuild, and you're going to build around him because he's a player in his prime.
Yes.
And that's what Matt Ishbia said. He's like, I got Devin Booker in my prime. I'm not trading him. You've got the hard part figured out. You have an all-star in his prime. Now build around him, not build away from him. Paradoxal Joel on Twitter said this the other day, and it's the best I've heard the Devin Booker debate, in my opinion. He said, I'd rather have an all-star with role players than just a bunch of role players. Because that's the whole point of getting draft picks, right? Is you're hoping that one day they could turn into an all-star in his prime. It's like, shit, we have an all-star in his prime right now. Why are we trying to just press reset to get back to right where we're at and hoping that we'll be in a better cap situation or have better draft picks at that time? I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
No, not at all. And, the one thing that Devin Booker brings too is his solemn self of just no distraction, not really in the media ever. This is his 10th year as a Sun. I feel like by now, if he is a star like we think he is, he would be in the media in a bad way to where there's a lot of pressure on him to win. That's still not there. The Suns are a worse team since being in the championship 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen with this guy. So if you think he's a star and you can build around him, he's a guy that keeps quiet. He's not in the news, and I think we like that here in Phoenix. I think the Suns fans are more in the news than anything than Devin Booker.
Well, and John Tran brings up a great point in the chat. Booker being the best player won't go far, but he's a piece to attract co-stars.
Yep.
That's a key right there. That's why you don't trade him, because it brought Kevin Durant. It brought Bradley Beal. It didn't work. You think back, when we acquired Kevin Durant, the majority of the fan base was pro that decision. When we acquired Bradley Beal, the majority of the fan base was pro that decision. Did it work out? Absolutely not. But these weren't horrible mistakes made in the moment. The end result was horrible. But you had Devin Booker to get you there. You talk about loyalty, and loyalty is your last candle in a blackout. So don't snuff it out for cap space. And this is the emotional part, right? Like I try to be logical in how I approach the point counterpoint, whether we should trade somebody or whether we shouldn't. But when Devin Booker's involved, there will be emotion. And in a league that trades friendship faster than cards at a Vegas poker table, Booker staying means something. That connection, that matters. And I look at it this way, and I know that might not be the best way to look at it. 29 teams don't win a championship every year, Matthew. Right? So do we want to be in a place where 7 years from now, and we'll never know the answer to this, right? The disease of what if, but 7 years from now, let's say we trade Booker this upcoming offseason. 7 years from now, we don't win a championship. we'll always look back like, fuck, man, it didn't work. Maybe if we kept Book and loyalty would have happened. I'd rather be on the side of history where 7 years from now we don't win a championship, but we stayed loyal to Book the whole way. Because as a fan of a team, having a player like him who's loyal to us, it's a rarity these days. And I'd rather be attached to something that is rarer than a championship, some would say.
Beautiful, man.
I know.
I'm getting emotional right now. Just thinking about
I was
it,
trying
'cause
not to
he's
bring
gonna
up the
be
emotional
traded.
stuff because I knew that it would take us here.
It doesn't take much for me to cry. So,
Any other reasons?
I just think bringing in the stars, but that was one already brought up by a Jamster. So I think that's the biggest one because I am scared. If he were to leave, who comes here anymore, right? Who wants to play with a roster of nobodies and just a bunch of draft picks?
Yeah.
No one. So we would have to, again, just fill up the arena halfway because no matter how much entertainment we have at that arena, we're there for the stars, for the players. And if Booker's gone, there's not going to be anyone in the seats.
They should have less entertainment. I have a couple more notes as
I
to
wish.
as to why. If this is a movie, you don't kill off the main character in Act 2. Booker is the story. The plot might be messy right now, but trust me, you're gonna want him around for the third act twist. Booker is the Suns' North Star, not a shooting star. He's not a flash in the pan. He's been here steady and true. Don't mistake consistency for complacency. And I think that's the only. Again, my big thing is the future asset thing because the number one thing that people are talking about is you trade Devin Booker. The hard reset is I want draft picks. I want a future. Let's press reset. And I'm. That's my case. You don't do that. But that being said, it's time to switch the tables. Why do you trade Devin Booker? So we made plenty of cases as why you don't. Matthew, why do you trade Devin Booker?
You trade him because Luka has been traded, because Giannis is going to be traded. I think it's just time to give up. It's time to give up in the way where you just don't see it ever happening again. Now, Giannis won a championship, right? Luka just took the Mavericks to a championship last year, did lose. But those are two guys that the franchise is like, you know what? We're not going to be able to win with them because Giannis will probably want out and we can't build around him right now. And Luka just couldn't keep in shape, I guess. He's drinking too much beer. He was
he smoked
basically not staying in shape and not keeping competitive through the season and in the playoffs. So I think that, we have to look in the mirror and be like, this is a guy you can't build around, and it's time to move off of him because other teams are just doing it. It's a thing, right? The coaches are gone just like that. The players now, we can be loyal, but if they're not going to bring us a championship and we can't build around them, get rid of them now, get as much as you can from them, and continue to rebuild.
Yeah, along those points, trading Devin Booker, one of the reasons you do it is because you have to sometimes cut down your favorite tree so the forest itself can grow. It might be painful in the moment, but it's necessary for new life to begin. It's the kick in the can down the street decision, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, in 3 years, and that's the big thing that people are talking about. He's going to get an extension, 2 years, $150 million. That's going to kick in 3 years, right? Now, I will say that part of that is his percentage of the total cap, because the cap's going up, is going to remain pretty much the exact same. He's going to make like 36% of the Suns' total cap. So they hear that number, like, that's ridiculous. He's got to go. It's like, yeah, but the cap's going to be, by 3 years down the road, it's going to be 10% compounded on top of what it currently is. And I think the cap right now is like 140. So then it becomes 154, and then it becomes 154 times 10, so 15, so like 169. Mm-hmm. I mean, it continues to go up along the way, But that being said, one point of view, one of the reasons you trade Devin Booker is, listen, it didn't work, it hasn't worked. He's not the guy. You need a guy to be the guy. So trade him now, get it over with. Don't drag this thing out for 3 more years and see where we're at. And then he becomes harder to trade because now he's making $75 million a year. Trade him now, get as much, his value is super high. Get what you can for it right now and start the rebuild now instead of waiting 3 years to start the rebuild at that time.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I think that another reason really, and it's probably going to hurt to even hear this I think I said this before, but he's just not, like you said, the guy, but he is the third best guy on a team, right? You plug him in to OKC, he could be the third best guy there next to Chet and SGA. He could be the third best guy in New York next to Kat and Jalen Brunson. Like, he can be that guy that, like, hey, the Lakers are losing tonight, right? Next to Luka and LeBron, you have Devin Booker, where Rui had to fill in the other night. They still lose. But you have a Devin Booker that can go off, can play defense, can help you be the best two guard, have another guy that can facilitate. Like, he is great, but he's not a star, and he is just the third best guy on the team, on a championship contender.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, that's valid. You know, how far is Devin Booker going to take you? That's why you trade him, because you realize, listen, there's only so far this guy can take you. And we talk about it night after night, you know, and I know that some people are, oh man, you guys don't ride him hard enough. No, we do. We talk about his physical limitations,
All the time.
You know, how he doesn't literally have the physicality to be, or the length or the physical attributes to be somebody who can ultimately change it. He has to work so hard for his shot. Now, it's a great shot, and the elevation on his jumper is elite, but he has to work so hard to get it. Whereas other people, like, you know, Giannis, just make it look easy. Paolo Banchero makes it look easy. So if that's the case, what are we really building around? It just doesn't make sense. You know, again, he's your golden parachute right now. Like, trading him is like pulling the ripcord before the free fall becomes a crash. His value's peaking. Ignore that, and you're skydiving without a backup chute. And that's another thing that could potentially hurt the Suns in 3 years. If he's upset, his value is going to tank.
Yes.
If we're in a situation where we attempt to do a rebuild and it's not working, does he want out? Do we run into an Eric Bledsoe situation? You know? Now, granted, like Luka, when he got traded, they didn't maximize his value because that was dumb. We don't need to be dumb. That's why you trade him. You trade him now.
You also trade him because he's quiet, even though I like the fact that he's not in the media. I can't stand how quiet he is. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Other than Budenholzer telling him to be quiet behind the scenes, you hear about that. It's just, you know, it's cool that he is a cool guy and he kind of is chill, but I can't imagine being in the locker room with him. Like, you just like, what's Booker? What's wrong? Like, I would just be like frantic, be like, come on, what can I do to help?
He's just thinking about how he could be the best shoe salesman ever.
Like, yeah, I know. It's like, how could I help you?
Courtesy Chevrolet.
But he stays quiet and goes home and rides home in his top-down car. And just,
well, here's my last reason why you trade Devin Booker. You'd be doing him a favor. You know, you'd be giving him a lifeboat off the Titanic. If you love Devin Booker, let him go. He's earned better. Loyalty doesn't mean chaining him to a sinking ship. Loyalty means it's like Patrick Peterson, right? Patrick Peterson played for the Arizona Cardinals for a ton of years. They let him go.
Yeah.
And he retired as a member of the Arizona Cardinals. And in fact, he announced like our second round pick. Now, granted, there's a lot of other bullshit with Patrick Peterson I don't want to get into. But I once yelled at him during a preseason practice, complimenting his shoes, and he turned around and gave me one of these, you know. He's just like, hey, he's wearing Jordan 1s. I was like, Pat Pete, great shoes, you know.
Do you think you're a chick or no?
My voice? No. I was like,
well, from that far away, who knows?
No. I mean, if you've ever been to a Cardinals practice, you're close, okay. Man. It's awesome. Going to practices are fun, man. Before the
it's indoor. It's in the stadium, right? Oh, really quick on the Titanic too. I don't believe in any of that shit now with the iceberg. I think it was like an ice monster, man. Like went right through the middle. Like,
no,
I just watched a monster did. I just watched a documentary about where it got hit and all that bullshit, and then it snapped in half. Like, I think something just ran right through that motherfucker. It just.
This is how you're spending your off season.
If you look at the wreckage, they don't know how it's split in half.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, they're like, it's under the mud. I'm like, no, it's not. It's all.
No, they know how it's split in half.
It's some kind of ice.
It got gashed on the starboard side. It got gashed. Yeah. That took on water, so it started to tip, and then the weight of it snapped it.
I don't believe
Leonardo
in
DiCaprio.
The steel, an iceberg in the steel. Like, how the fuck did an iceberg cut through that steel?
Because you're going at it fucking 40 knots.
Nah, I'm not into that.
Mark N in the chat. Conspiracy. We should do that. We should make a segment like Conspiracy, and you just fire off some fucking
Yeah,
conspiracies
I got
that
plenty of them. I'm right about all of them. So this is the new one.
Well, all right. Well, here we are. We're at the moment. Point, counterpoint, Devin Booker. What do we do?
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Big Dick Booker.
All right. So we've given you both sides of the argument, why you trade and why you don't. Matthew, I'll ask you this. I'll ask you two questions.
Yes.
Should the Phoenix Suns trade Devin Booker? Will they trade Devin Booker?
I think they should, but they won't. And I think they should because of everything we listed of why we should trade him right now. And I think the Suns right now know it's not the right decision because you can't have Matt Ishbia come in here and destroy a championship contending team and then trade Devin Booker. So obviously Booker knows what's going to come, and that's why he's content here because he wants to win. He knows what they're up to behind the scenes, I feel like, who they want to get here and who they want to get as a head coach. So he's going to stay, and they're not going to trade him. But I would say trade him because I don't see this team turning it around anytime soon.
So I go with they shouldn't trade him, and they won't. And again, I fall in that camp. And I get, like, anybody who's talking about they should trade Devin Booker, like yourself, man, don't give up so easily, dude. I get what you're saying. I get that this team in the next 3 years, because we're on a 3-year window, essentially. That's my big thing. Before it was a 2-year window with KD and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, and that went horribly. And there's going to be a lot of reimagining, and we have to see what this team's going to do this upcoming offseason. But for the reasons I stated why you don't trade him, you don't trade him. You don't put yourself in a situation where you're using draft capital again. You know, it's the revisionist history thing, right? It's like the people who are sitting there and be like, see, if we had DeAndre Ayton, everything would have worked out, right? I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, DA had the potential, but it was also a shitty time when he was here. I go back to like 2011 onward. I mean, when we first met, we were just wallowing Suns fans drinking fucking wine, being like, Jalen Green could really dunk the fucking ball. Or what was his name? Gerald Green. Gerald Green, he's got 9.5 fingers. That motherfucker can dunk. And we get blown out by 50. Like, I'm not ready to go through that rebuild process yet, to start getting excited for drafts. And my big thing when it comes to the draft is the draft doesn't mean shit unless you have a top 5 pick. It's a fucking fact. If you want an all-NBA guy, the last 9 drafts, there have been 11 players drafted in the lottery who ended up being all-NBA. And 8 of them were top 5 picks. 6 of them were top 3 picks. Unless you have a top 3 pick in the draft, top 5 pick in the draft, it's really, really hard to build a team. And right now you have Devin Booker who can bring in these other guys. It might take a couple seasons. Next season is probably going to suck. We're probably going to buy out Bradley Beal. We're going to have a ton of dead cap space. We're going to trade Kevin Durant, which will get us on the second apron. We'll have flexibility, and we're going to start building for the next season. And that's going to suck because it's going to be a shit season. Now imagine a season in which we've traded all those guys and we're just sitting around just thumbing our assholes hoping that we get a fucking 5th overall pick and then getting all excited about a draft pick. And then, you know, we take Josh Jackson instead of De'Aaron Fox. I can't do it again.
I know you can't, but I would much rather watch the rebuild, than watch this team with the talent just not even make the playoffs. Like, I think it's worse watching a Devin Booker led team continue to not make the playoffs or make any kind of indent when they make it. It's a hard thing to know that you don't have one of the top. I know he is like ESPN's top 10 guy, top 20 player, top 10 player 2 seasons ago, but he's fell so far. So I can't stand to watch it anymore. If that's what we're going to get, if this is his peak, then I just think that's the best fit for him to go somewhere else. And obviously leave us fans with a team that sucks. And we know we're not going to make the playoffs, but not to go in a season think we're going to be a championship contender. It has the same fucking record as the Trailblazers and DeAndre Ayton.
This season was such an anomaly. And if you have Devin Booker, you have a chance to make the playoffs. And I feel that you continue to take swings and you try to build around him in order to hopefully become a championship contender, but at least be a playoff contender. Because if you give him up, you know for the next 5 years, you are not a fucking playoff team. You're going half a decade of us on post-game podcasts doing more losses than wins. And you got to think about that. Like from a Suns Jam Session podcast standpoint, this is the first time that you and I have done it, that we had more losses than wins, because we started the podcast in 2019, and then we started doing the post-game podcast after every single game, starting the 2020/21 season when we won 64 games. And then we won 50-something games. And then, we won 40-something. I mean, so this is the first season we had to experience what it's like to have a losing team. Now, granted, what made this more unique is the fact that we had all the expectations. The difference between that and a team that, again, in your scenario where you're trading Devin Booker, at least then we'd have hope and hype, right? Like we'd be watching a team like, ooh, shit, that was kind of nice how so-and-so did something, and we lost by 10. And so I can see the upside of that, and I can understand where people are coming from when they are willing to embrace that rebuild. I'm just not there yet. I can't get there.
Yeah, and I think if it goes either way, which we are going to keep Booker, I still feel the same going into next season. So trade him, not trade him. I just, I can't get too excited either way, honestly. Just like a new coach. And
Suns Worldwide in the chat says, you think I trust this front office to build off the draft? Hell no. And that's, again, if you're trading Devin Booker for draft picks, again, I do trust this front office because their draft history has been good, but you have to have a top 5 pick in order to truly make a splash. And that's where I just have a challenge. John Tran, could Booker be on the Pittsburgh Steelers? LOL is what I meant. He must have said something. Does Booker fit Ishbia's identity he's trying to instill? That's a great question. What do you think about that? Because that was one of Ishbia's buzzwords, right? Change and identity. Those are 2 buzzwords that he had in his press conference. Does he fit the identity?
If you want to settle back into what James Jones and Devin Booker were trying to do here before Matt Ishbia got here, where he wanted the flashy lights, he wanted the new lake show or whatever, you know what I mean? Like to come in here, he's like, no, this is going to work. And to realize that James Jones and Booker, because you have to know that Booker had a lot to do with those guys coming here before. Now it's just like, does Matt Ishbia want to get with Booker and be on their side of things? I don't think it's them following Matt Ishbia. It's the other way around.
Yeah, fair. Well, I think that's where we both kind of fall. I think that they shouldn't trade him. You think they should. I had a feeling that's where you were coming from, because I know at the back end of the season, you had that 1 week where you got super into Booker. Like, holy shit, dude, this is the guy. And then everything fell flat and you're like, fuck that guy.
I was like, he was making everybody else bet all that shit.
Yeah.
Because that's how I really felt. And then I just lost it right away, dude.
I was
after
like,
3 games.
Dude. I'm like, Matthew is on one. I'm like, those shrooms aren't wearing off. So, all right. Well, I mean, that's it for the point counterpoint. I do want to ask you about kind of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Thoughts. Brains?
All right. So obviously the Phoenix Suns aren't in the playoffs. So it means we're watching good basketball. I don't know if there's any validity to this, but Creepy Crawley just said in the chat that Luka got injured, but then he put hearts next to it. What an asshole.
So that must mean it's true, right?
Creepy Crawley. He's quite an asshole. He wants people. Yeah. He's happy when people get injured.
I think they're down by 10 at the half. So
are they?
Nice.
That's one reason I want to start earlier, because I want to watch the back end of that game. But that being said, what are your thoughts on the playoffs this far? Like, how much have you watched?
I've watched actually quite a bit. I think the later games, obviously, when you have the Lakers coming on, the Houston Rockets, kind of trading every other night, those competitions are great. I think the fact that a lot of the series that you don't want to watch, in the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I didn't watch any of that. Those are over early. But it's been so competitive. It's been a fight every night, especially the Houston Rockets, Golden State Warriors games. Like, I like it. The only thing is the reviews are killing the buzz of the games. Like, the reviews should be instant to where it's like someone headbutted, all right, he's out. Grab him, yank him, and continue to play. Like, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes before you get back into action. So I understand. I think the breaks there kind of calm everybody down, because these guys are fighting in between every calls. Like, I didn't get to watch most of the New York Knicks and Pistons yet. Like, I've loved that series coming up.
That's the one I've been really watching.
But I can't. I don't have, like, it comes on earlier, so I want to watch the next game, obviously Game 6. But it's been competitive, man. I think the NBA, obviously, they're entertainment now. It's just about the trades. It's about the action, the punching, the ejections, all of that. That's what I think people are really coming to watch now. It's not about the play as much. I think us nerds, the ones that really love basketball, love to watch the game. But I think everything outside of that, like the fighting, the yelling, the talking shit, the trades that happen, like that's what gets the eyeballs on the NBA. So they're doing a good job with that. But I think it's been a 10 out of 10 so far.
Yeah, the NBA has been crushing it relative to ratings, and it's because they're allowing physical play to occur. And it's one thing when there's a lot of ticky-tack fouls, right? And like your wife's walking by and she goes, "What's going on with the game?" It's like, "Oh, that guy, I think he touched him." And but when there's like two guys like bowing up and headbutting each other, and Anthony Edwards pushing LeBron James as he's walking down the court, there's this intensity. Now, obviously, I don't think it's sustainable over an 82 game season, because there'd be no one left by the time the playoffs came. It's just just injured guys left and right. But it's been a very fun watch, and I too have been watching a ton of it. And I think that, again, I think back to just the reimagining of how you do the season. You start it in December, and then the All-Star game is kind of in March, when they're not competing with football and everything that's going on right now. I mean, you can own July and August, ultimately, end of July going into August. And the NBA just really needs to imagine, because it was like last week, there were some really good games on, but I didn't watch it because the NFL draft was on. I'm like, they're competing with the fucking NFL draft. They threw 4 games up in one night. They're in the first round of the NFL draft. I'm like, it just continually amazes me how they don't do a good job with their scheduling. But, all that being said, what is the weirdest thing that you felt watching these games? Because I'll tell you one thing. Every time I watch a game, I know one thing: the Suns would get fucking boned. I mean, but for me, I think the weirdest thing that I found myself doing is like rooting for the Lakers. And I know that's blasphemy. And I put it on Twitter, and people are like, "You aren't a Suns fan." I'm like, "Okay, buddy." Like, it's like I hate the Spurs more than the Lakers. And I've gone over this time and again. Like, there's just this deep hatred I have for the Spurs because they denied us championships. Other than like the Ron Artest putback, that the 2010 season was kind of like oh, that's nice, versus like, oh shit, we're going to go win one. The Lakers never really got my way. I don't have this deep hatred of the Lakers like a lot of people do, which is understandable. And I guess that part of that is because I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm a Dodgers fan, never liked the Lakers, like the Clippers, but was always a Suns fan growing up. But like, I don't like the Timberwolves. I don't like Anthony Edwards. And he was the one who was telling us to suck it last year. I can't sit there and be like, I really want that guy to win. Like, I can't stand them because they're the team that's emotionally hurt me. The Lakers haven't emotionally hurt me. When's the last time the Lakers emotionally hurt you? 2010?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the one time I actually was really upset that night. I remember that. I think I cried a little bit. That was the last time I think I cried over the Suns.
I know exactly where it was. I was so pissed.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that because they gave us hope. That was a series they went into that no one gave the Suns a chance.
Exactly.
They forced a game 6, and they had a chance for a game 7. So I think the one thing though I'll say with the Lakers is watching Luka with that team, and there's a couple things that if they lose tonight, obviously they'll be out of the playoffs. So I think it's too quick to judge the trade for Luka. Obviously, everyone was flying off their handles, like trying to make sense of the trade with Luka going to the Lakers. Over time, we'll know in the next couple seasons if he can lead the Lakers team to the finals. But also, I don't like Luka on the Lakers. In Dallas, it was okay. It was, and I hate watching him sometimes. Obviously, he complains, but I just don't think he fits as a Laker. Like, it just doesn't look right, and I just don't get as excited. I thought I would because he's a Laker. I'd be like, oh, he's in LA. But now that I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't really care. I like watching the games, and maybe because he's playing next to LeBron, but there's something about it, the jersey, the way it looks, maybe his attitude. He's had a hard time emotionally this year, but there's something about it, dude. I'm not interested in it. I think I'm somewhere else.
I feel like I will hate the Lakers once again because there will be a moment in the upcoming seasons in which Luka tears our heart out, and then he'll feel like a Laker to you, whether you like it or not, and I'll go back to hating them. And it's just in this series that I find myself just not accepting.
Yeah,
Anthony Edwards, who's about to put away Luka, put away LeBron. Last year he put away KD. Put away Jokic. Like, he's got some really good names on his, his Steve Buscemi putting the lipstick on, like, and Happy Gilmore crossing names off the list. Like, he's put away some good guys. I just can't get behind them because we were one of those guys that he crossed off. Is there anything else that you found weird? Or how about this question? Mm-hmm. Do you have any new favorite players?
No, I think I was on the A train last year with Anthony Edwards. This year, it's like you said, it's kind of annoying at times. But I think I like that Wolves team because of their competitiveness and that they actually are a complete team. I think the Lakers are really searching for someone else to help those other two dudes, and LeBron and Luka.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I do. I think I really wanted to watch the Knicks and stuff and watch the other Thompson brother with the Pistons. Just because there's some young talent with Durant and stuff like that. The center. I wanted to be, more up in front with that one, but it just hasn't happened. But I think that, the one player that I really do look forward to watching, it's kind of weird. It's been Dylan Brooks, the Houston Rockets. Just because that team, it's interesting to watch because he did, talk a lot of shit he always does.
Yeah.
But
Him and Jimmy
team,
the other night.
Yeah, that team though, they're trying to, compete emotionally with that Warriors team, and Dylan Brooks leads that. And there's a lot of fights. It's like, can they keep up? Because what Draymond always does, he brings you into that, and you can't compete because he takes you out of their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, the Rockets responded tonight with a huge win. But Dylan Brooks is in the front of that, and he has a lot of shit. When he was in Memphis, right, he was taking those threes and whatever. He basically lost in the series in the Western Conference Finals. Now with Houston, I just wonder if he's doing too much negatively to hurt that team, because they are, as you can see tonight, they are explosive. Defensively, they're great. So if they can they have a chance to come back and win that series. I did choose the Warriors to win because they're more talented. They're more athletic. They can jump out on you like they did tonight. And also defensively, they can just crush you. But if they get too emotionally involved, like Draymond, I think it's going to take them out of their game. But that's why I'm interested to watch Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, that's a unbelievably fun series to watch. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. And I mean, the Pistons are the team that I've just been like, that's my new team, man. I love the Pistons. I love Cade Cunningham. He's long, he's big, he's clutch. He missed that shot a couple games ago, and then a foul could have been called, whatever. It's a physical series. But like with him and Jalen Duren and then Asur Thompson just trying to play the chess match against Jalen Brunson, that team, they're kind of like the Rockets of the Eastern Conference, right? The Rockets obviously being the number 2 seed, but both of those teams, and maybe it's kind of funny because like one of them's got Asur Thompson, one of them's got Amen Thompson, so you got two guys out there who are twins and kind of look the same but playing for different teams. But they're kind of mirror images of each other, where they're in the playoffs really for the first time trying to learn how to win, and it's not going to be easy, but the way that they fight and the way that they play defense and the way that they have heart. I don't know. There's something about watching them play that I've thoroughly enjoyed. The Pistons have been an unbelievably fun watch. And to your point on the Western Conference side, I don't like Dylan Brooks. Everyone knows that, but I like that team. I like Alfred Sengun. Jalen Green is somebody who everybody's like, well, if we trade Kevin Durant to the Rockets or Devin, but we got to get Jalen Green back. I've not been impressed by Jalen Green, and neither has the coaching staff. Like, they're benching him in the last 5 minutes. Like, you don't want that guy. That guy is all offense but no defense. He's the one guy. Yeah, he's a head case. And he's the one guy who doesn't fit into that identity that they have, which is like, we're just going to dog you on defense. The one thing I'm questioning is, with all this physicality that we're seeing and everything being let go, do you think that it could eventually affect the Oklahoma City Thunder? Because the way they dominated the regular season, and they did so primarily through their defensive standpoint, right? Their defensive schemes, their athleticism on defense, but it's a different type of defense that's being played in the playoffs thus far. Do you think there could be any semblance of an adjustment, or are they going to be able to play physical and stop teams and lock them down regardless?
I think it's going to be tough in the Western Conference Finals for them. I think the Nuggets, obviously, the
Nuggets and the Clippers, another great series.
Yeah, they might beat the Clippers there, but I have the Wolves and the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, but I had the Thunder winning, and obviously I had them losing in the championship. But that's even a tough matchup for them too. Like you said, it's a physical matchup, defense. You have a guy in Anthony Edwards who is a loudmouth, but he's a guy that can take over competitively. Yeah. Can he win the meet off between him and also the meet off between SGA and Anthony Edwards? Like, who's going to win that? And I do think that Anthony Edwards has a chance to overcome that. That's why going into the playoffs, like even last year with the Nuggets, like everyone picked him to win the finals. It's like, well, hold on. There's other teams out there that are defensively better, that actually have an edge to them that might take them out, right? And I think the Wolves are a team like that this year. And I think that, the Rockets can be, if they can stop giving into what the Warriors are trying to make them do and try to get in their head and stuff. So there's a physicality out there, and I think the Rockets can match them for sure too. So I don't think it's going to be easy for the Thunder, like you said. So I hope it's not, because I don't want them to sweep everybody, but I just obviously want them to win a championship because it'd be nice. But they need that other guy. They need someone like a Giannis for next year.
Yeah, and they might go and get him. A couple things I want to get to in the chat. Again, thank you to everyone who's hanging out. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you happen to be on the YouTube feed. Let's see. Eddie Yee, would you accept Anthony Edwards for Devin Booker?
Yes.
Yes. Like
Automatically, yep.
Yeah. That's not even a Keith Nettles. As I predicted, Lakers are a mess. That's true. Suns Worldwide, not going to lie, I've enjoyed the Warriors. I appreciate that you're not lying to us. That would have been really, really tough if you were lying, but you said you're not going to lie.
Yeah. How much does that Jimmy trade hurt you now? Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it's the same surroundings, but, Jimmy just has been incredible in the playoffs. He's been hurt, obviously, but he was incredible the first 2 games. Yeah,
and that's, the Warriors, the Rockets. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that have been just fun to watch. It's been fun to – Tyrese Halliburton, says Mark Brooks. What do you think of that whole Tyrese Halliburton's dad?
So, I didn't get to watch much of that series, but I saw the highlights of him kind of getting into it with Giannis. It's kind of weird. Basketball is strange, man. Like my girlfriend's son plays in a league in Tempe, and they're 6th, 7th, 8th graders. And those parents go at it with the coaches.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane how crazy people get. And especially parents, man, they are very defensive, and they'll choke somebody. They'll choke a bitch for sure.
Yeah. Why would you go up to like Giannis though? Like it just goes to show you that there's no accountability in society, because in no world would you just walk up to a 6'10" ripped motherfucker like Giannis and just start telling him he's a piece of shit and he needs to go home, because he can't do anything. Like Giannis should be allowed. It's like, hey, you are on the you're on the court. You're in my world. You start doing that, I can just sock the shit out of you, and you cannot do anything. You know what I mean?
That's what I always said. The players should be allowed to knock a fan out.
Yeah. If they come onto the court, you don't go to the stands.
I would, dude. If the fans knew like a player can come in and knock the shit out of you, no one would be talking shit.
Oh, I know.
What the fans say is courtside, you can't even bring a kid to courtside.
There's so many people in society because it's like against the law to like some people need to have their ass kicked. Good, bad, or indifferent. It just needs to happen because it creates a semblance of accountability that just doesn't exist anymore. Everybody's got their cell phone right there. Yes, I like navy blue. That's my thing. But you just got your cell phone right there, and you're like, I'm going to talk shit to you. And if you do anything, I've got you, buddy. It's like it's the worst time in the history to be alive.
Yeah.
D-Rock says, I like Mini versus OKC, the winner versus Boston. So he kind of, D-Rock agrees with you. That's who you have in your Western Conference Finals. I don't remember who I had. I did have the Lakers winning that series, though. Yeah. So, anyways,
a lot of people did.
That being said, that's it for this show. We'll go ahead and we'll come to you live again next Wednesday night. Probably have a new GM by then. It's looking like it's going to be the guy with 2 names. Is there any other Phoenix Suns who had 2 names? Because Brian Gregory is who they're looking at potentially being their GM. Tyrone Corbin, that's 2 names. He played for the Phoenix Suns.
Luke Paul.
Chris Paul.
Yeah,
we'll think on that. But until then, Jamsters, appreciate you hanging out with us. Make sure you subscribe, like, rate, and review. We'll see you this time next week. Until then, Matthew, tell them what to do.
Go love your family, bro.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.